$8 for, sorry, fine. I'm going to ask Oscar Shelton to join us as we do pensions. Proposed budget, $25,338,392. Current budget, $23,062,539 for a total increase of $2,275,853. All city pension plan reflect the new assumption rates that were required by the state and passed by the pension board, and the proposed pension budget fully funds all of the annual required contributions based upon the actuarial valuations.
Question from council members with regard to pensions. Councilman Merolla.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I know I've heard the mayor speak on this for a number of years. There were certain inherited problems, in particular with Police 1 and Fire 1. Those funds were underfunded for years, and in many ways, we inherited a lot of those problems. Obviously, we have a fiduciary obligation to the taxpayers and to everybody up here that works for the city to make sure that when they retire, we have enough money to pay their pensions, and in particular to pay their health care. So what we do is we rely on actuarial reports. These guys from Texas that tell us whether we're investing our money appropriately and whether we're funding our pension plans adequately. And last year when they came before us, and I would invite everybody back in a few weeks, they'll come back to talk about their new actuarial reports. One of the most disconcerting things to me was that our total unfunded pension liability keeps increasing. I think they told us it was close to $280 million last year. And as far as our health care, our promise to pay all these people here when they retire health care, whether it be blue chip 65 or full health care until age 65, I think that fund was $485 million in debt. So when you combine those, you're looking at a little over $800 million, close to $1 billion of unfunded liabilities. That fund, healthcare, we have a lot of debates as to whether whose fund is better funded, whose is better funded. We know that Police 1 and Fire 1 are around 22% funded, or 23% funded, and they keep dropping down. Everybody in Fire 2 or municipal, we hear closer to 80 or in the 70s, depending on which actuarial report or what analysis you listen to. But the most disconcerting thing to me is that our health care is completely unfunded. So we can argue about whether 80% funded or 22% funded is adequate, but how can we even have an intelligent conversation when our health care is completely unfunded? I just feel like we're lying to everybody in this room, that they can rely on the promises that we make. I mean, I don't write the reports. I don't like reading the reports because they make me sick. I mean, the city's total net assets decreased $21 million last year. That's when you compare our assets to our debts to fund all these things. I just don't want to see us in a situation like the other communities up in the northern part of the state find themselves in, where we don't have the political will and capital to make decisions, and somebody else will end up making the decisions for us, because politicians are caught between a rock and a hard place. At the same token, you don't want to upset people by saying the contributions have to go up, and on the flip side, you don't want to say to the taxpayer, your taxes have to go up to pay for these. So we play with the numbers. Last year, they told us that our rate of return, we should be anticipating an 8% rate of return. Can anybody tell me where I could put my money to get an 8% rate of return? And then, because we asked that group here, 3 nights later, the same actuarial group goes to the State House. I guess they were embarrassed by what they told us here, and told the state on the same investment for the pension funds there that they should expect a 7.5% rate of return. What's the significance of that? The significance is we're not putting enough money into what we need to. And what I fear is that because of being caught between the taxpayer and the worker, we kick the can down the road, we don't adequately address the issue, and we can have that debate about pensions all day long. But as far as this council member is concerned, there's no discussion on health care. That's zero. There's nothing in there. So what I fear is down the road, after this administration leaves, after this council leaves, after people retire and move on, and people have been relying on these promises for years, that you end up in a situation like a Central Falls or a West Warwick, and we see it on the other side of the ocean with Greece. They made the same promises that they can't keep. And what happens? In the United States, we're a municipal corporation. So we're allowed to declare bankruptcy or to go into receivership like we saw in Central Falls. And what was the response of the receiver in that case? They reduced pensions and benefits, in some cases by 50%. How are you going to live on that? That's what people are relying on in this room. And you know, I sit here, a lot of my friends, you know, I grew up with are on different departments. I went to high school with them. I grew up in the same neighborhood. How do I look at people in the eye and tell them what I believe, what the actuarials believe? You know, I hear a lot that we're better off than other communities. And I kind of look at that like, well, maybe we have stage 1 or stage 2 cancer and somebody else has stage 5. I don't want to have any cancer. But, you know, for the guys that are out there and the women that are out there working day in and day out, that are doing their jobs, that assume that other people are doing their jobs, that's a big assumption to make. But the actuarial reports speak for themselves. And, you know, I don't know what else to say, but it's very, very disconcerting. I know that other numbers, and they paint a rosy picture that it's okay, we're going to recover. But we dropped $21 million in 1 year. Thank you, Mr. President.